They believed they could strip me of everything: my family's farmland, my heritage, my future, all sold off by an HOA that had no authority over it. But what they didn't realize was that I had been rooted on this land long before their HOA even existed. And when I started digging through my documents, I uncovered something far more valuable than proof of ownership. What would you do if the very ones who stole from you suddenly found themselves at your mercy? If you enjoy wild HOA revenge stories, hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. The day began like any other, with the sun rising over my fields, casting a golden glow over the wheat swaying gently in the wind. I had lived and worked this land my entire life, just as my father and grandfather had. Our family owned these acres long before there was even a paved road to the nearby town. So when my phone rang that afternoon, I expected the usual: a supplier confirming an order, a neighbor asking for a favor, or one of the ranch hands checking in. Instead, I heard my lawyer Sam Grayson's voice tense with urgency. "We have a problem," he said. "The HOA claims they sold your land." I nearly laughed, assuming it was some kind of absurd mistake. "That's impossible," I said, stepping onto my porch and gazing out over my fields. "The HOA doesn't own my land. I never signed anything. My deed is clear." There was a long pause before Sam replied, "You need to get to the county office right now. You need to see this for yourself." Within the hour, I was standing in a cramped government office, staring at a thick set of documents spread before me. Sam flipped through the pages with a grim look. "This," he said, tapping a stamped form, "is a sales agreement transferring 1,500 acres of your farmland to the Oakwood Hills Homeowners Association. Apparently, you sold it 6 months ago." I shook my head, disbelief crashing over me. "That's a lie. I never saw anything like this." He nodded. "That's what I thought. But look at this." He handed me another paper, a copy of a signature supposedly mine authorizing the transfer. My stomach churned. The signature seemed close but was slightly off. "This is a fake," I muttered, fists clenched. "They forged a sale and think they can get away with it." Sam leaned on the counter, sighing. "Not only that, the HOA already flipped it to a developer. Construction is set to start next month. If we don't act fast, they're going to bulldoze your land." Those words hit me like a blow to the gut. Over the years, I had watched the neighborhood edge closer, more houses popping up. But I never imagined they'd be bold enough to outright steal from me. My land was my livelihood, my history, my future. The thought of losing it, seeing concrete poured over the fields where my father taught me to plow, where my grandfather ran cattle, made my blood boil. "Who authorized this?" I demanded. "Who signed off on a fraudulent sale?" Sam pointed to a name on the final approval form. "President Daniel Whitmore and the notary, his wife." My jaw tightened. Daniel Whitmore had always been a smug, power-hungry snake, the type who smiled while plotting behind your back. I had ignored his petty HOA nonsense for years: letters complaining about tractor dust, fake noise complaints about my cattle, even demands to maintain aesthetic consistency with their neighborhood. It wasn't worth my time, until now. Now, he had declared war. Sam leaned in, lowering his voice. "We can take this to court. You have the original deed. That sale is fraudulent, so we can get the whole deal overturned. But you need to be ready to fight because they won't back down easily." I nodded, already planning. "I want to see every document related to that sale," I said. "Every paper, every approval they forged. If they think they can steal from me, they will learn just how wrong they are." Back home, I pulled out my safe and laid out the documents my father had passed down through generations: official deeds, zoning exemptions, tax records, all in order. I called Sam to start preparing the paperwork. "We're stopping this before a single shovel hits my soil. They don't own an inch." As I flipped through the old documents, something caught my eye, a reference in the property records I hadn't noticed before. It was about an inheritance transfer decades ago, when my father took over from my grandfather. Reading carefully, I found a barely visible notation in faded ink: a second parcel of land, 300 additional acres, extending beyond what I thought was our property. My heart pounding, I cross-checked old county maps against the deeds. It took nearly an hour, but the pieces snapped into place. This wasn't just about reclaiming my land. It was something bigger. The additional land overlapped with part of Oakwood Hills, the very neighborhood where HOA board members lived. I sat back stunned. They had stolen my land, but in doing so, they overlooked something crucial. They were living on property that legally belonged to me. A slow grin spread across my face. This was no longer just a legal battle. This was an opportunity. The HOA thought they had won, expected me to give up or accept a payout, but they had no clue what was coming. I dialed Sam. "Change of plans," I said as he answered. "We're not just fighting the sale. We're hitting them with something they never saw coming." Sam hesitated. "What do you mean?" I looked over my fields, imagining Daniel Whitmore's face when he learns the truth. "We'll let them think they've won. Then when they least expect it, we take everything from them." The next 2 days, I was buried in old maps, legal papers, and every document my father had saved. The finer details revealed that my land claim extended deeper than I imagined. Over 60 years of history tucked away in inheritance transfers and overlooked paperwork. My grandfather had purchased an original 1,500 acres for $1,000, 500 acres. But an additional 300-acre plot had been inherited by my father and neglected for decades. That land stretched directly beneath parts of Oakwood Hills. The HOA and Daniel Whitmore had been ruling a small kingdom on land that still legally belonged to me. I drove straight to Sam's office, papers in hand, determination burning. He scanned the documents, stunned. "If this is correct, your property line extends beyond the northern boundary of Oakwood Hills. This means those HOA members, including Daniel Whitmore, are living on your land." The magnitude struck us both. This revelation meant dozens of homes, streets, even parts of the HOA clubhouse were on property that wasn't legally theirs. Their failure to file proper paperwork, whether by negligence or deliberate shortcut, would be their undoing. We devised a plan to play it cool while readying for the ultimate strike. I filed claims quietly, let the HOA send their violation notices and fine me endlessly, giving the illusion of their control. Then came the perfect moment. A formal notice from the HOA arrived, asserting their completed sale and dismissing my claims. I laughed, knowing their arrogance had sealed their fate. That night I officially filed my ownership claim with the county, based on the inheritance clause proving my rights to those 300 acres. The county initiated a property review, sending notices to every homeowner in the disputed area, shattering the illusion that their deeds were secure. Panic exploded, mortgages frozen, insurance questioned, sales halted, neighborhoods shaken to the core. Daniel Whitmore, once a kingpin of the HOA, was now a desperate man pacing the courthouse halls, face pale as ghosts. When he confronted me snarling about the court case, I smiled. "I already made sure the banks know your deeds are invalid. Mortgage lenders freeze loans when deeds are disputed. Tell me, Daniel, what happens when an entire neighborhood suddenly becomes unsellable?" His confidence shattered before my eyes. The community's panic escalated as lawsuits surged from homeowners, banks, and developers alike. The media caught the frenzy, broadcasting headlines accusing the tiny HOA of fraudulent property deals and jeopardizing dozens of families' homes. One by one, the HOA's board members were exposed, abandoned by neighbors and developers alike. Daniel vanished from public view. The HOA's empire collapsed under the weight of lawsuits, debts, and angry homeowners. Yet my fight was far from over. Owning the land meant I could control its fate. I put the disputed parcels up for sale, not the homes, but the land itself. Homeowners faced a stark reality: buy their land at market price or lose their homes. Property values plunged. Mortgage lenders refused loans. Boutique homes became foreclosures. Investors snapped up land at rock-bottom prices. Former HOA board members lost their own homes first, including Daniel, who fled the wreckage of his life in disgrace. The once smug residents who had sneered at me now pleaded for mercy. I offered none. By year's end, Oakwood Hills was unrecognizable. The pristine neighborhood demolished, replaced with commercial properties, farmland, and open fields. The HOA was gone, bankrupt and forgotten, and I stood victorious, surrounded by my reclaimed farmland, the fields lush and undisturbed, a living legacy preserved for generations to come. The media tried to paint me a villain, a ruthless landowner destroying a neighborhood. But those who truly understood the story knew the truth. The HOA dug their own grave, and I just buried them in it. That evening, watching the sunset cast long shadows over my land, I finally felt peace. No HOA letters, no fines, no threats. Just the quiet triumph of a legacy restored.